If the fire escape has more steps than yesterday, don't keep climbing. The first time I noticed it, I thought I was just tired. After all, the fire escape at my old apartment had always been a narrow, rusting thing, 3 flights down to the alley, 3 flights up to the roof. I'd lived there for years, and I knew it as well as my own kitchen. But one night, when I went up for a smoke, the iron staircase didn't end at the roof. It just kept going. At first it looked normal, maybe an extra half flight I hadn't paid attention to before. But the higher I climbed, the more I realized it wasn't stopping. The air grew colder, the city sounds below faded, and the steel rungs beneath my shoes gave off a faint, unnatural vibration, as if they weren't meant for human weight anymore. I looked down. The alley was gone. Only a gray void stretched beneath me, swallowing the place I'd come from. That's when I heard it, the scraping sound. Something else was climbing too. The steps groaned with a weight far heavier than mine, and the noise echoed upward, not downward. Whatever it wasn't coming from below. It was already above me. Half shadowed in the dim light, I saw it crouched 3 landings up. Not a person. Its body was too long, its arms bent in places they shouldn't, fingers curling around the railing like hooks. Its face was smooth and pale, with only a vertical slit where a mouth should be. When it grinned, the slit widened into something deep and wrong, teeth scraping like glass shards. It didn't move fast. It didn't need to. Every step it took made the staircase stretch higher, like it was building itself for the thing to descend, and for me to never reach the end. I ran back down, heart pounding, but the steps below weren't the same either. The alley wasn't there anymore. The fire escape had no end, only more iron stairs winding into a gray abyss. The creature followed. Not rushing, just climbing, steady and patient, like it knew I'd tire long before it did. Rules to survive the endless escape. 1. Never climb past the roof. If you see more steps, turn around immediately. 2. Do not look directly at the creature's face. The slit mouth grin isn't just to scare you. Staring too long makes the stares multiply. 3. Don't count the steps aloud. It hears numbers, and numbers make it stronger. 4. If you feel the metal vibrating, stop moving. Stay completely still until the shaking stops. 5. If both up and down are gone, close your eyes, step sideways, and let go of the railing. You'll wake up in your bed, if you're lucky. I don't know how long I've been climbing. Sometimes I wake up in my apartment, convinced it was just a nightmare. But every time I pass that window, I see the fire escape stretching higher than it should. And I know it's waiting. That feeling hasn't left me since the night of the fair. It follows me like a shadow stitched into my skin, something you can't peel off no matter how much you claw at it. At first, I thought it was paranoia, trauma replaying itself in quiet corners of my brain. But the truth became clearer with every night that followed. The Ferris wheel didn't stay behind. It carried itself with me. Sometimes, when I turn my head too quickly in the dark, I swear I see the faint outline of its circular frame etched into the walls of my apartment, its lights twitching on and off like faint stars, except there is no sky inside these walls. The sound came first. A faint creak, like steel bending under pressure, echoing in the middle of the night. I lived on the 3rd floor of an old building, and though it could have been explained by pipes or settling wood, I knew better. That creak was the same sound I'd heard as the wheel turned in the abandoned field, the same rhythm of rotation that pressed itself into my memory. Then came the shadows. Long, spindly shapes would stretch across my floor when no light was on, bending in unnatural ways, curling like skeletal fingers across the carpet. The first night I saw them, I shut my eyes tight and waited for sleep. But it wasn't sleep that came, it was the faint, metallic smell of rust. And then the faces returned. Not whole faces, but fragments. Eyes suspended in the air like glass marbles, mouths hanging wide but silent, drifting across the corner of my room. Each time they appeared, they seemed to drift closer, as though carried by an unseen wind. The last time, one pressed its lips against my ear. It didn't speak, it didn't breathe, but the cold was so sharp I thought my skin would crack. I screamed and turned on every light in the house. The faces dissolved instantly, but the smell of rust only grew stronger. I tried leaving. I packed my car and drove for hours, hoping distance could sever whatever tether the wheel had thrown around me. But the farther I went, the more I noticed it, in reflections of glass, the faint, spindly outline of the Ferris wheel standing tall against a horizon that shouldn't have been there. In the middle of an empty desert highway, I looked into my rearview mirror and saw its shape rising in the distance behind me. It was impossible. There was nothing there when I turned around, but in the mirror, it spun slowly, each car filled with shadow. No matter how fast I drove, it never left. Nights became unbearable. Every time I closed my eyes, I was back at the fairground, standing beneath the rusted skeleton of the ride. But it wasn't abandoned anymore. The seats swayed gently in the wind, and in each one, something sat waiting. Not people. Not even creatures I could name. Just silhouettes, their limbs far too long, their heads tilting in jerks like broken dolls. They stared at me as the wheel turned, creaking, one seat at a time, until the empty car reached the bottom. And then, it would stop. The shadows would look at me. And the air would hold its breath. But the worst part wasn't the dreams. The worst part came when I woke up one night and realized the creaking wasn't in my head. It was outside my window. I live in a cramped city apartment. There should be no room for something so massive. Yet when I parted the curtain, I saw it. The Ferris wheel loomed, impossibly large, its rusted frame scraping the clouds. Lights blinked in chaotic patterns, flashing red and white, and in the seats, I saw them again, the silhouettes. All of them swaying. All of them waiting. And for the first time, the wheel wasn't silent. The shadows were laughing, a hollow, ragged sound, like laughter played backward. I slammed the curtain shut, heart hammering, and pressed myself against the wall. But the sound followed me, the creak of its turning, the ragged laughter rising with each rotation. And then I heard something else. A knock. Soft, deliberate, against my front door. Once. Twice. Then silence. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The knocking returned, louder, faster, as if something was desperate to be let in. I backed away, whispering to myself, praying it would stop. And suddenly, it did. But I made the mistake of looking. Through the peephole, the hallway outside was empty. But pressed against the glass, so close it blurred into a mess of pale flesh, was an eye. Large, glassy, unblinking. It was one of them, the passengers of the Ferris wheel, standing outside my apartment door, waiting. My body locked up, and all I could hear was that creak, that endless turning, echoing through my walls, through my bones. I don't know how much longer I can keep the lights on, how much longer I can ignore the knocking that returns every night. The Ferris wheel isn't bound to the field anymore. It's here, with me, and with every passing hour, it's getting closer. The laughter grows louder. The shadows grow longer. And I know the moment I open that door, the wheel will finally stop turning. And when it stops, my seat will be ready. The clock above the receptionist's desk ticked once, loud, deliberate. Then the silence swallowed it, like time itself hesitated. The air was heavy, damp, as though the room had been sealed underground for years. The figures still shuffled in, row after row of them, filling the seats that shouldn't have been there. The walls stretched, the waiting room elongating with every creak of the floorboards, but I never saw it expand. It just had. The smell of dust mixed with something acrid, sharp, like metal left to rust in water too long. My chest tightened. The person, no, the thing, beside me shifted. Its head turned slowly, as though bones had to grind like stone to obey. The skin on its face sagged, then tightened, then sagged again, like something inside was adjusting the mask. Its eyes, God, its eyes weren't right. Too big. Too round. The sclera had glisten, pulsing faintly, as if each one held its own heartbeat. And it smiled. I could hear the sound of gums peeling as lips drew back too far, a smile that stretched wider than any humans could. A cough broke out from the far corner. Harsh, wet, rattling. I looked over instinctively. The sound wasn't human either, it was like pipes straining to carry water, groaning and cracking. The thing producing it was hunched, hands clasped around something unseen, rocking forward and back. Its head lifted, and its mouth opened, impossibly wide, spilling a thread of shadow that dripped onto the floor and sizzled. The people next to it didn't move. They didn't react at all. They just sat there, staring ahead, hands folded neatly in their laps, as if this was all routine. The receptionist's desk was empty. I don't remember her leaving, but the chair was turned away now, facing the wall. My stomach knotted. Something inside whispered, "You shouldn't have looked away. You should have kept staring." I wanted to stand, but my knees wouldn't bend. The seat had stiffened beneath me, like stone gripping my thighs. The fabric wasn't fabric anymore, it was damp, slick, pulsing faintly, almost like muscle tissue alive beneath my skin. The overhead lights flickered again. For a moment, the room plunged into darkness. And when the light came back, the rows of chairs were all filled. Every seat. Every single one. And each figure was staring at me. Not blinking. Not breathing. Their necks craned in unison, bones cracking like branches under pressure. My chest burned with cold, as though the air itself had been sucked from me. Their mouths began to open, slow and deliberate. Not one sound at first, just an unbearable tension stretching the silence until it groaned. Then it came. A low hum, layered, guttural, resonating in the floor, in my teeth, in my skull. Dozens of voices murmuring at once, words buried in tones too deep to understand, like an underwater choir dragging me under. I pressed my palms to my ears, but it didn't matter. The sound was inside. My head throbbed with every pulse of it. My heartbeat no longer felt like my own, it synchronized with the hum, each thud not from me but from them. The figure next to me leaned closer. I could feel the cold drip of its breath down my neck, metallic and sour, like inhaling blood. Its whisper threaded through the choir, sharper than the rest, cutting me open with sound alone. "It's your turn." The lights dimmed, not flickered this time, but dimmed deliberately, like hands twisting a dial. The ceiling pressed lower, the walls closer, and the air heavier. My lungs refused to expand. I tried to scream, but the hum swallowed it before it ever escaped my throat. The receptionist's chair creaked, slowly spinning back toward me. And where she should have been, there was only a hollow, endless black, deeper than shadow, hungrier than night. Something moved in it. The hum rose, vibrating through my ribs, shaking my vision until the walls seemed to melt. The figures leaned forward in unison, necks bending at impossible angles, arms stretching too long, fingers clicking against one another like insect legs. Their faces cracked. Skin peeled. And beneath, there wasn't bone, but something else, glimmering like oil, shifting like liquid shadows given form. Their smiles never faltered. And as the receptionist's chair finished turning, the black inside it surged forward, flooding the room, climbing the walls, swallowing the lights, the rows, the figures, everything, until all that remained was me, locked in my seat, lungs bursting with silence. And when it stops, my seat will be ready.